Across the centuries, the name Knights Templar has echoed like thunder in both history and legend. They are remembered as warrior monks, wearing white mantles with a blazing red cross, riding into battle with unshakable courage. They are remembered as guardians of pilgrims, protectors of holy places, and soldiers of God. But they are also remembered in whispers. Whispers of hidden treasures. Whispers of sacred relics like the Holy Grail. Whispers of strange rituals, of forbidden knowledge, and of curses that struck down kings and popes. For some, they are heroes of faith. For others, they are shadows of mystery. For all, they remain unforgettable. Yet behind the stories and myths lies a real history. A story of men who began with nothing but faith, and who rose to become one of the richest and most powerful organizations of the Middle Ages. A story of how they built castles, created banking systems, and influenced kings and crusades. And a story of how they were betrayed, destroyed, and turned into legends. This is the untold story of the Knights Templar, the birth of a brotherhood. Year 1119, the First Crusade had changed the world. In the year 1099, the Crusaders captured Jerusalem after a long and bloody siege. Christian pilgrims from all across Europe began to travel to the Holy Land, eager to pray at the places where Christ had walked. But the journey was dangerous. Roads stretched across mountains, deserts, and wild lands. Pilgrims carried money and supplies, and that made them targets. Bandits attacked them. Raiders ambushed them. Some pilgrims were robbed. Others were killed. To protect these travelers, in the year 1119, 9 knights came together. They were not rich. They had no great army, but they had a mission. They swore oaths of poverty, chastity, and obedience. They would live like monks and fight like soldiers. They dedicated themselves to Christ and to the protection of pilgrims. The leader of this small band was Hugues de Payens, a nobleman from Champagne in France. He and his companions made their headquarters near the ruins of Solomon's Temple in Jerusalem. From this, people called them the poor fellow soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon. It was a long name, and soon they became known by a simpler one, the Knights Templar. At first, they were ignored. 9 knights alone could not protect thousands of pilgrims. They had little money, no banners, no castles, yet their faith and courage stood out. They became known as knights who would die rather than abandon those under their protection. For almost 10 years, they lived in poverty. They begged for supplies. They wore old clothes. Their horses were so few that 2 knights sometimes rode on one. Yet from these humble beginnings, they would grow into a force that shaped the world. Papal blessing and rise to power. The fortunes of the Knights Templar changed in the year 1129. At a great church council, the Pope officially recognized the order. The Templars now had the blessing of the most powerful institution in Christendom. With papal support came privileges. The Templars answered only to the Pope. They did not pay taxes. They could cross borders without interference. Local lords and kings had no authority over them. This freedom gave them unique power. Nobles across Europe began to donate land and wealth to the Templars. Families gave estates, castles, farms, and even entire villages. Sons of noble houses joined the order, bringing dowries with them. The Templars grew rapidly. They built commanderies, fortified centers that became the backbone of their network. These places stored food, weapons, and wealth. They also trained new recruits. One of their greatest innovations was financial. Pilgrims feared carrying gold on dangerous journeys. The Templars solved this problem. A pilgrim could deposit money with the Templars in Europe, receive a letter of credit, and then withdraw the same value when reaching the Holy Land. Warriors of the Cross. Though they were wealthy, the Templars never forgot their identity as soldiers of Christ. Their rule was strict. They lived like monks. They prayed 8 times a day. They slept in dormitories, ate in silence, and followed orders without question. They owned no personal property. Everything belonged to the order. They could not marry. They could not hunt for sport. Their clothes were simple. Their food was plain. Wine and luxury were forbidden. But when the trumpet called, they were warriors. Clad in chainmail from head to foot, carrying lances, swords, and shields, they rode into battle under the Red Cross. Their discipline was their strength. Ordinary knights often charged recklessly for glory. The Templars charged together as a wall of steel and courage. They never retreated unless ordered. They never broke ranks. In battle after battle, chroniclers recorded their bravery. At the Battle of Montgisard in the year 1177, a small crusader force led by the young King Baldwin IV, supported by Templars, defeated a massive army led by Saladin himself. Templars fought to the last man at sieges, buying time for others to escape. Their reputation spread, fierce, loyal, and unbreakable. Enemies respected them. Allies admired them. Their white mantles with the red cross became a symbol of holy war. Wealth, secrets, and rumors. By the 13th century, the Templars had grown beyond imagination. They owned lands in France, England, Spain, Portugal, and Italy. They had fleets of ships that sailed the Mediterranean and beyond. They managed farms, vineyards, and mills. Kings turned to them for loans. Merchants trusted their banking system. Pilgrims depended on their protection. But such wealth and independence stirred suspicion. People began to wonder, what secrets did the Templars hide? Rumors spread that they had found hidden relics during their time in Jerusalem. Some said they uncovered the Ark of the Covenant. Others claimed they discovered the Holy Grail. Still, others whispered of scrolls, secret knowledge, and hidden wisdom guarded from the world. Stranger rumors spoke of initiation ceremonies, where new members denied Christ, spat on the cross, or worshipped idols. Most of these tales came from envy or fear, but in an age where heresy was feared above all, even whispers could be deadly. The Templars had risen like giants, but their size and power meant they cast long shadows, shadows that enemies would one day use against them. The fall of Jerusalem and decline. The heart of the Templars' mission was the Holy Land. But by the late 12th century, the Crusader kingdoms were crumbling. In the year 1187, Saladin struck with force. At the Battle of Hattin, his army crushed the Crusaders. Thousands of knights were captured. Many Templars were executed on the spot. Soon after, Jerusalem itself fell. The loss was devastating. The Crusaders launched more campaigns, but each one was harder than the last. Fortresses fell one by one. Castles the Templars had built with stone and blood were lost. By the year 1291, the city of Acre, the last stronghold in the Holy Land, fell. The Crusaders were driven into the sea. The Templars withdrew to Cyprus and then to Europe. They still had wealth, castles, and influence, but their purpose, the defense of Jerusalem, was gone. Kings and lords began to ask, why do we need the Templars now? Betrayal in the end. In France, King Philip IV, known as Philip the Fair, faced financial ruin. His wars had emptied his treasury. He owed enormous sums to the Templars, but instead of paying his debts, Philip chose to destroy them. On Friday, October the 13th, in the year 1307, Philip ordered the arrest of every Templar in France. At dawn, thousands were seized. Their lands and wealth were confiscated. The charges were shocking: heresy, corruption, blasphemy. Under torture, many confessed to false crimes. They were accused of spitting on the cross, of denying Christ, of worshiping strange idols. The Pope, under Philip's pressure, dissolved the order in the year 1312. In the year 1314, the last Grand Master, Jacques de Molay, was burned alive in Paris. Witnesses said he called upon the king and the Pope to face God's judgment within a year. Within 12 months, both were dead. The Templars, once the sword and shield of Christendom, were gone. Though destroyed, the Templars were never forgotten. Some say their treasure was hidden before their arrest, buried in secret vaults or carried away on ships. Others believe survivors joined other brotherhoods, their traditions continuing in secret. It began with 9 poor knights in Jerusalem, sharing horses and living in poverty. It grew into an order that spanned nations, defended kingdoms, and shaped the world of the Middle Ages. And it ended with flames in Paris, with a Grand Master's curse, and with legends that would never die. The Templars rose with faith, they fell with betrayal, and they live forever in history and legend.